Hello, everyone. It is Jaime Jill Wright here at Madlit Musings. And today we're going to have a very subdued conversation. We're going to be talking about some really serious topics because I have a non-comedic, non-romantic author. Just kidding. I have
Hello.
Bethany Turner with us today.
I
How
was
are
like,
you?
oh, maybe Jamie Show doesn't know me at all. Oh, wait, yes, she does.
She's like,
Okay,
wait,
we're good.
what serious
I'm
topic are we covering? Because
like, I am not prepared. I did
I
not
do
do my
not know what
homework.
to say.
Great. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a blast to have you. And it's exciting because I don't think you and I have ever really had a good conversation, just the two of us before. So
No, we
this is
haven't.
literally the readers who are listening are eavesdropping into our first coffee chat ever.
Yeah, which you did just a moment ago have to be like, we have to start hitting record because I mean, we
Right.
were already just diving into
I
life and
know. I know. Well,
yes,
our way of diving into life was snarky comments and
that's
meet
what I said,
cutes and all
diving.
kinds of crazy things. So
Good stuff.
first and
Yes.
foremost, people who are listening and who don't know you, which is a shame if they don't, and a little bit astounding if they don't. But if they don't know you, you are kind of the queen of dramedy and romance. If
Mm,
I'm putting that out there right, like
That's,
comedy, a little bit of
I'll take it.
drama, romance.
Yeah, I mean,
How would you
very
describe
much.
yourself?
I describe myself as a romantic comedy author, but the thing that I think is different about my books, sometimes, as opposed to what people sometimes expect from romantic comedy, is that I believe the funniest stuff is in the real stuff in life. So, and also the most dramatic stuff is made easier with laughter. And so I try to very much infiltrate. I mean, there are hard topics, but at
Yes.
its core, it is romance and it is comedy, and but we're just trying to be sort of real about it.
And that's what's kind of fun because I think sometimes we need to be able to find the comedy in real life.
Amen.
Otherwise, it's that old phrase like I can either laugh or cry.
Right. And but I think sometimes the best moments come when you're doing a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Like in writing and in life. I know some of my favorite moments are of, when someone breaks through your literal breakdown and they say something funny that makes you laugh and you're
Right.
blubbering. And, it's like they are, I feel like it's kind of like love and hate in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ways when you're writing love and hate. They are actually so similar
They really
as
are.
far as the reactions and all of that. So when you can
Mm-hmm.
use it all together, you can create something
Right.
sometimes.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a perfect way of explaining it. And it's fun to read those types of scenes too, where you're like in the middle of a story and your heart is just wrenching for the character. And you're like, oh, this is so tough. And then suddenly something way off the wall happens. And yet you're sitting there going, that would totally be me. That would have
Right.
happened to me. And it's extremely realistic as far as it could happen, even though it's off the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the perfect thing because it's like the reality in my books and in so many books I love, it's like, okay, yeah, your situation is nothing like
Right.
these characters, and you're never going to find yourself in this situation. And yet, when we get down to the core of the emotions of it, it's like, oh yeah, I've been through that exact same thing, just on a different scale. And so yeah, once you can touch into those things, it's
Yeah,
authentic, I think, of who we
absolutely.
all are. So yeah.
So the book that just came out is called it's a really deep title too. It's called
It
Bryn
is
and Sebastian Hate Each Other.
a love
So
story.
a love
Gotta have
story.
the,
A love story.
yeah.
Which is an
Yes,
oxymoron. That's kind of an important part of the title. Bryn and
it is.
Sebastian hate each other. A love story.
Exactly.
Because that's a perfect oxymoron. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about it.
Well, it is the story of Bryn Cornell, who is she's the host, newly appointed host of the number one morning show in the country. So think like, the Today Show, Good Morning America, that sort of thing. And she just got elevated to the number two on the top couch. So big, big time. And then at the end of her first week, she basically gets caught on a hot mic, revealing that she's actually kind of a mean girl, and everyone who loves her the world over and thinks she's the sweetheart, and like she's called America's ray of sunshine,
Oh,
and yet she's actually a mean girl, and it's all an act a little bit, and gets caught. And so her only chance of saving her reputation and saving her career is to go back to her tiny little small town, hometown in Colorado, which was the main subject of her tirade
Ah,
on the air. So they dislike her more than all the rest now at this point, and she has to go back and try to make nice and convince everyone that she's actually a good person.
yeah.
Um,
She was just
but
having a bad day
Sebastian,
with a hot
she
mic.
was just having the
Yeah.
pressures of stardom,
Oh, so
those
tough.
things. She's willing to go to rehab, but they don't think that'll be enough. It's like it's one of
Right.
those things. And yeah, so she's got to go home and kind of face the music. And more importantly, face Sebastian Sudworth, who she has no idea who he is, but he's a Pulitzer winning journalist who has made that little town his hometown now, after basically a complete career and personal meltdown.
Oh,
So recipe for disaster
I was gonna say
and love and
they
all the
sound like a
things.
pair.
They are a pair indeed. They both, neither of them can stand anything that the other stands for. So it's, lots of banter, lots of witty tirades and put downs. And yeah, it's very fun to write.
Jabs. You can get all your angst out, I bet, when you write these
Mm-hmm.
stories. Like everything that you wanted to say during the day to real people, you just put in the book to fake people and
Absolutely.
no one's feelings are hurt.
Absolutely. It's the best. I mean, and then you get to actually take it a step further and kill people,
I do.
which I am a little jealous of, I won't lie.
Well, you could insert a killer into your books. I mean,
I
you could.
could.
You
I
could do
could.
like a meet cute with a serial killer. Someone told
I
me that
could.
once.
That's a great idea.
It's
Whoever
a great.
came up
I'm
with
not sure who
that.
came up with that. Bethany
But
Turner.
yeah, a meet cute with a
Okay,
serial
let's
killer would be an amazing
just for
thing.
the heck of it, just for the heck of it. If
Yeah.
you were going to write a book with a
Yes.
serial killer and
Yes.
give this serial killer a romantic meet cute,
Okay.
what would you do?
Well, here's my first question. Is there any redemption for the serial killer? Are they always, I mean, like are they like, and I don't know, I can't, as a rom-com writer, I can't redeem a serial killer,
Well, I was gonna,
but am I
yeah,
okay with that? I'm
that's
okay with
fine. I
that.
was gonna say
Okay.
it's just got to be comedic, so irony
Okay,
works
cool.
well.
Then I mean, it could definitely be someone who walks in on the serial killer escaping the scene of a crime.
Oh,
Like dead body right there. I'm like,
instead of
yeah,
a
this is
bouquet of roses, here's the
yeah.
dead body. How do you like me now?
And maybe, here we go.
Okay.
The person who walks in helps them cover up the crime because they secretly think that they accidentally killed this person
Ooh,
because they had like something to do with poison. And so
ooh.
they think they're responsible for the death. The serial killer knows they just killed them, but neither of them acknowledge this, and they both help cover up the murder.
This is quite entertaining. I like where this is
Mm-hmm.
going. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it could
then
work.
that's their meet cute, and then they eventually fall in love. But then what happens when said not killer, who thinks she's a killer, realizes that the serial killer actually is the killer, and this isn't his first time.
Right. Well,
This
it
is
could
the
go a
serial.
couple different ways. I mean, they could go the direction of now they work together and she helps him cover up, or he helps her. Maybe she's the serial killer. I shouldn't say, it's still to be decided.
You know. Now that we're talking about this, do you realize this has been done?
I did not realize that,
I just realized
but
it
I'm
as
not
we're talking.
surprised.
No, as we're talking, I'm thinking, wait, this happened in Dexter.
Oh, see, I never watched Dexter
This I
because I can't handle gore, honestly.
oh, it's a lot of fake blood. It just looks like ketchup squirting
Yeah.
on the walls. But it,
Okay.
it's not necessarily a show I would recommend just because there's stuff in it. But I will say that he meets another girl who is supposedly a murderer, and there's a meet cute, and then they end up kind of assisting each other.
Well, there you go. So I just stole a
So
plot line from Dexter, but I didn't
it's
know
called
it. So I still get
plagiarism, Bethany. It's called plagiarism.
it's called being too late with a great idea.
Well,
That's what
it's
it's
really
called.
funny as you're talking. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this would actually make a neat premise. And my brain's going like, oh, maybe I should write this. And then I had like characters, you know how when you're thinking about a character, what they would look like, I had them
Mm-hmm.
pop into my head. And I'm thinking of the guy who played Dexter would make a really good guy for a model for that. And
Wonder
then I thought of this
why.
other woman. And then I'm like, wait, because I'm thinking of them because this is their story.
It's been done. But I
Yeah.
will say the way I picture it, because I had not seen Dexter,
Okay.
and in my mind, it's very much like a Jason Bateman Like, but
Yeah.
like it's because we got to go for the comedy in my
Yeah.
version of
Hmm.
this, of course.
Hmm.
And so a Jason Bateman, maybe a Paul Rudd. I hate to bring my love of Paul Rudd
Well,
into
he's kind of
everything, but
hanging on your wall right behind you.
he he literally is always
Yeah,
with
he's
me.
just staring at me
Um,
through this whole podcast. It's
yeah,
disconcerting to say the
he's
least.
there. He's also all over here because he is Sebastian Sedworth in my
Oh, got
inspiration.
it.
So Paul
Okay.
is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Um, but he wouldn't he be great as this super charming serial killer?
Really would.
Yeah. So and then
You really
somebody
would.
like I don't know who the actress is yet, but
Like maybe you could
um
be the actress.
okay. I won't turn down that role if Paul Rudd wants to be in a serial killer romantic comedy with
Let
me.
me just quick send an email to his agent.
Okay,
Dear
please
agent of
do.
Paul Rudd, we have an epic movie/book deal for you, starring the romantic lead
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm.
Bethany
And of course,
Turner.
the email address is agentofpaulrudd@paulrudd.com,
Oh, of
right?
course.
Okay,
Right.
cool. Yeah,
Right.
I thought I
Yeah.
had that right. So
Yeah. It's
cool.
really, really easy to get a hold of him. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, he puts it all out there for everybody.
That's good. He's the everyman.
So is Paul Rudd the heroic model for all of your book heroes or just Sebastian?
Just Sebastian. I mean, I will say there's always an aspect of Paul Rudd in every hero I write. I really because I love that. Well, not every, almost every. I think of a couple that not, but for the most part, because I love that. I do love that everyman, and I love that like is he's very handsome in my opinion, and yet if you just look at a picture of him without the personality of Paul Rudd, he's just a normal, good-looking guy. You
Sure.
know, it's the personality, it's the
Right.
character, it's the little bit
Right.
of nerdy.
Yeah.
I do love that in my heroes. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
I was kind of surprised when he got named the sexiest man alive.
I was just surprised it took so long.
Well, I was surprised because he doesn't necessarily fit the stereotype. So it was a pleasant surprise. Like,
Okay, I'll give you
thank
that.
you for not always having to put a hero into the box as some alpha male, studly, muscular, chiseled jaw,
Yeah.
sportsy dude.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of, as a society, it seems like moving towards that's the type of guy we like, is the Paul Rudd of the,
Yeah.
who it's like he's pretty chiseled as Ant-Man, and yet he's still this dorky guy. And
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling, very chiseled, and yet as Ken, he's ridiculous. And Ryan Reynolds is ridiculous. It's like we've started really, which I will credit George Clooney for making us love that type of guy.
He does do that role very well.
He does. He
Yeah.
does. It's like he's always so George Clooney handsome.
Right.
And yet there's just something about him where you're like, I really believe I could be friends with this guy
Right.
because he seems very normal, even though, of course, he's not. I have met his parents, but anyway, that's
Oh,
a different story.
well, there we go then. I have not
So
met George Clooney's parents. There you
then
go.
I am closer to George than you are. That's
You
all there is to
are. You're far closer to George.
that. Well, we're both from Northern Kentucky.
Okay.
So, there's
Was it like
that
a
too. I feel
grocery
like
store meeting?
no, it
Oh,
was,
okay.
well, with his dad. I met his dad when I was a kid because he was the master of ceremonies of a marching band competition that my
Oh,
sister
okay.
was in. Because
Sure.
Nick Clooney is a celebrity in his own right, but
Right.
he was very much a local celebrity at that time. And then Nina, his mom, owns a little store in downtown Augusta
Oh, neat.
still, like
Okay.
George's little hometown. And I walk into the store, I'm knowing she owns it, wanting to just go because, hey, George Clooney's mom owns
Mhm.
this store.
Right.
She's literally working behind the counter. It was the most adorable, and it was my birthday, and she sang
Oh,
happy birthday to me and told me
oh,
stories about George.
that's so sweet.
It was
That's so sweet.
amazing.
I love it when like celebrities are brought down to a more
Mm-hmm.
hometown level where
Yep.
they seem like real people versus paparazzi,
Yeah.
media, airbrushing.
Right. Which I think, not to tie everything into book, but
Oh, please
it's like
do.
that is I'm like, I guess I should try to
Please
promote my
do.
book a little
We
bit.
probably should
What?
talk about Bryn and Sebastian hate each other. A love story. Okay, what were you saying?
Available now wherever books are sold. It's yeah, it's very much that of Bren and Sebastian being these very well-known famous people in
Mhm.
their selected mediums. And yet in this little town, they're just them, which for Sebastian is exactly what he was seeking. And he's
Mhm.
wanting to, just for the first time in a long time, not be a celebrity. And of course, that's the same thing that Bryn wants nothing to do with, because she's
Right.
worked her entire life to become a celebrity. So, but there is something very much about a small town that just kind of brings you down to earth a little
Mhm.
bit, for
There
better
really
or
is.
worse.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there really is. I think part of the thing with small towns too is people kind of, I mean, there is a degree of separation, and yet there's also a everybody knows everybody else's business concept.
Uh-huh.
So even if you don't know them personally, you know of them.
You know them exactly.
You know of them. So, well,
Yes.
this is cool.
Yeah.
This is cool. All right. So, readers who read your book, do they get any faith element, or is it just pretty much straight up romance? Or what's your thoughts on all that?
It honestly varies based on the book.
Okay.
My first romantic comedy was a book called The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck, and it's like overtly faith element.
Hmm.
And then my next book as well, and then it was kind of a little less in the third book, and it wasn't by design.
Hmm.
But what I started kind of discovering, um, at least for me personally, was I loved the idea of the I don't need to preach to the choir, I guess.
Right.
On the things, it's like I love the idea of being able to pull in these new readers
Hmm.
who, wouldn't pick up a book if they thought it had a
Right.
faith thread.
Right.
And yet, um, the faith thread in my mind is on every single page, of course,
Yeah.
because how do you escape it when it's part of
Part
you
of
and it's
you.
who you
Yeah.
are?
Yeah.
And so, like this book in particular, Brett and Sebastian hate each other, a love story available worldwide. Um, is
Makes a great Christmas present, New
It
Year's Day present,
does.
Easter baskets. Fill your Easter baskets right now.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Whatever season you're listening to this in, it's perfect for this season. Um, but it's very it's the prodigal son
Yeah.
is
Okay.
is what it is. And
Yeah.
so and to me, like the father in the prodigal son, who of course representing God, and
Hmm.
and yet to me the town is the father, as far
Sure.
as how they accept her back and all
Yeah.
these things. So it's like, and but that's stuff that I won't say as I sat down to write it. I'm gonna write a modern rom-com version of the prodigal son.
Right.
Not at all in my thoughts. And yet it's just these things that are who you
Hmm.
are always making their way onto the page. So,
Well, and I think
and
honestly, that's a lot of times more relatable, whether you're coming from that belief system or not,
yeah,
because it's more organic. You know,
agreed.
it's not this. Oh, we need to infuse it with spirituality.
Exactly. And just being able to start a conversation and
Hmm.
and truly it's all we have to do is look at the example that Jesus set for us
Right.
as far as how we interact with people. Jesus didn't walk up to people and start saying, okay, I got to preach to you now, so sit down and you're going to listen.
Right.
No, he
Let me talk to you
engaged.
about your eternal security
Yeah,
right now.
exactly. It's
There's a
like,
tree trunk.
uh,
Sit down. Sit down. You're listening.
sit down. I got this. Yeah, that was not the Jesus way.
No,
And,
it wasn't.
and that's not to say that there's not a place for every type of book. I believe there
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
But I don't feel necessarily like I'm called to that. I feel more like it's okay, engage.
Yeah.
Get people to listen to the
Yeah.
story you have to tell, and maybe they'll find something in there.
Right.
Maybe they won't, but we'll still all have a good time together and it'll be
Right.
fun.
Right. And I think honestly, relationships are so much more meaningful when it's coming from a viewpoint of just being real
Yeah,
versus having an agenda that you're specifically trying to achieve with something. And, I do that even with some of my books. Some of them are more overt and some of them are more like, what, she never even, did she say something about God in there?
right.
But it's one of those things where then you have conversations with people who would never read a Christian novel. And then
Exactly.
they're kind of like, it seemed like maybe you had elements of faith. Well, actually, I did. And then you can have
Uh-huh.
these great conversations because they just kind of evolve from it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like my first book, my first rom-com. So, like I said, Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck, and she was a steamy romance writer who becomes a Christian and then falls in
Oh,
love with her pastor. So, like,
sorry. I knew that, but I forgot that. And it
So
just made
it
me
was
laugh all
like
over again.
so out there in some ways. And like it was a scandal within certain,
Oh,
Christian fiction
pearl
circles.
clutching.
Uh-huh. And I had these people write to me like, what an opportunity I missed by not showing her baptism. And I just have to say, among all the other things, and I'm not even to get too deep about this, but I'm looking at a story on the page, and I'm knowing that, okay, who would have baptized her? Oh, yeah, the hot pastor that she's falling in love with. Yeah, they would have loved that, which,
Mhm.
because the thoughts that this character would have had, as
Yeah,
it's like, think about it, it's not about an agenda, and I have to check off this checklist of make sure it
right.
fills this, and this. It's like, no, it's telling a story. It's
Yeah.
being authentic to these characters.
Hmm.
And the idea, that's the thing. There are stories, and this is my one little soapbox moment, and then I'll step down. But
That's
I
fine.
feel like there are stories for everyone, ways to tell stories. I think that's all great. What I
Hmm.
cannot stand is the attempts to try to pigeonhole everyone into what one person's viewpoint is.
Right.
I just can't take that. And it's like, if that is how we approach things, it's like there's not even thought from people of how many people are being left out by that.
Right.
And
Oh,
so
absolutely. Absolutely.
it's stepping off soapbox now, but there we
I
go.
like that soapbox. That's a soapbox I can help support.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it wasn't really that offensive either. So,
Okay, good. I try not
but
to be too.
you were talking about the baptism thing, and then I was thinking, oh, and then you do write about a baptism, and then you don't represent baptism correctly because within the Christian
It's yep.
world, how many different viewpoints on baptism are there? Not that we need to go off into that rabbit trail, but
Right, but it's true. It's
some are,
yeah,
like adult baptism, child baptism, full immersion sprinkling. I mean, it
right.
just that, and some of it may or may not be important, or maybe it's extremely important to some, and others like, I don't care.
Exactly. And you're bound to offend someone.
You are, you are. Yes.
And so, yeah, it's like, but I think I offended fewer people by not having a baptism.
Honestly, I think
But
you probably did.
I probably did. I probably did. But also, it's like more than anything, it was never a thought in my mind because it wasn't key to the
You
story
know,
that I was
now
telling.
that you're bringing it up, though, I'm trying to figure out if I've ever even read a book outside of like a biblical fiction set in like New Testament era where there was a baptism.
Probably not.
And I can't
I mean,
think
I
of
can't
one.
think, no. And yet, how dare I not? Because she became a
Yeah.
Christian. So clearly,
Yeah. I need to
I,
go back and change all my
that'd be
reviews for your
interesting.
books to 1 star, no baptism.
Please do.
I would have given this 5 stars, but there was no baptism in this novel. Next title. I would have
That's
given this 5 stars, but there was no.
no baptism.
And the next time I see Bethany, she throws a bucket of water on me and says, "There, you've
There's
been
your baptism.
baptized."
And I love I would have given it 5 stars, but I think it's almost even better if it's just 1 star, no
Yeah,
baptism.
right.
Like
Yeah,
that's
one
what
star.
more is there to say?
There's nothing more to say. Nothing more to say.
Which
What if
reminds
you
me, this
had
is
a
such a
meet
oh, go
cute?
ahead.
Okay. What
Okay.
if you had a meet cute with a serial killer who felt it was his
Yes.
job to baptize people, and then
Oh.
he would hold them under too long because he was so into the moment of baptism that then this is bad. I'm going to
So
stop now.
you're gonna get letters.
Do people send letters anymore?
I don't know. I do. So that means everyone does, right?
I'll probably get some emails. All of a sudden, my rating on YouTube just plummeted back down to 2 listeners and 2 subscribers.
And of
Yes.
course, my review will be 1 star, too much baptism.
Your review, you go onto Spotify and leave me a Spotify podcast review.
Mhm.
Jaime, 1 star. Serial killers never baptize their victims.
There's never dies the victims. That is so unrealistic.
Like, what? Except yet we're still talking about this, and my brain is literally, I can feel the story in the back of my head. Do you have that happen to you?
Always,
I'm just like,
always.
oh, but what if you had a really religiously inclined serial killer who felt it was his duty to make sure
Right.
that everybody was appropriately saved before he enacted God's justice?
See, that seems very realistic. I mean, like actual, not like normal people realistic, but serial killer realistic.
It
Like I
does.
could see that
It
that could
does.
happen.
Yeah.
That could
And then maybe one
happen.
of the victims just finds it extremely romantic that he's that concerned about her spiritual welfare.
Okay, I'm having a tougher time making that
I'm
feel
gonna start
realistic in my head.
barking with laughter pretty soon.
Although,
Sound like
I
a
mean, like
donkey
the
braying.
same people who fall in love with, criminals and have these letter love affairs with people in
Right?
jail. I mean, those same type of people might fall in love
You
with a
should do
serial
that for a
killer.
book. That would be a hilarious rom-com. Like ex-con meets like the pastor's daughter. And you could call it Pastor's Daughter and Ex-Con Stay Alive, a death story. I think it fits with your brand.
It is with my brand. But see, I see, oh, but I feel like it has to be a love story. So it's like, it would
Oh,
almost be like ex-con and pastor's daughter against the odds, a love
that would
story or
work.
something like that.
That would
Because
work.
I have to make people know that there's going to be a happy ending in this.
Well, and honestly, though, like in all seriousness, it would make an interesting premise. Only because, like, I was on the other night, I was watching videos on YouTube of like these really amazing worship sessions that were going on inside prisons. And a lot
Okay.
of the different prison ministries where convicts are actually finding
Yeah,
like redemption and things like that. So it would be an interesting idea.
that would be. I mean, like,
Although then you don't want to
yes.
romanticize the idea of falling in love with ex-cons because, and yeah, well, anyway.
Although, I mean, it can happen, you know, it
Mhm.
can happen. It can happen. It happens. And
It does.
this ex-con could go on to do amazing things.
It really could. I wrote an
So
ex-con into my book that was really sweet.
see, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
if played by Paul Rudd, women would love him. It wouldn't
and we've come
matter.
full circle here on Mad Lit Musings. Back to Paul Rudd and Jaime being offensive. Leave us a 1-star review and thank you for listening today. Oh my
Oh,
goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, so the book is called Bryn and Sebastian Hate Each Other, a love story.
a love story.
And readers can find out more about you and less about me by going to what about you?
CBethanyWright.com is a good way to find me. So C like SEE and Wright like WRITE. It's so obvious to me, and yet people are always like, letter C?
Oh,
RIGHT? I'm like, what would that mean? What would yeah, so
like maybe your first name was Carmina?
Carmina Bethany Turner. So it's C Bethany is what I go by. Like
Carmina Bethany Turner writes. Right.
.com at
Lady Carmina Bethany Turner Wright .com.
.com.
There's not one single person listening right now that knows what just happened in this podcast.
I'm not sure there's anyone still listening. They probably all abandoned us.
Yeah, they're probably trying to figure out where I stand on ex-cons and serial killers and where you stand on baptism.
Baptism.
And anywhere you go with this, it's not going to end well.
No, we've alienated a lot of people here today, Jane Joe.
We really have. We really have. But
yeah.
For the record, I can attest that both Bethany and I love Jesus. And
yes, we do.
I think he covers us with a multitude of grace for all our mistakes.
I'm so glad that he does, because yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yes.
Okay, so see Bethany
Right.
dot
com.
com.
Yes.
As in the word CEE.
That
did not work.
CEE. No. SEE. Okay, like C.run. See Bethany run. See Bethany walk. See Bethany write.
Oh, perfect. That was perfect. I'm not going to even embellish anymore.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
We got the website down.
And people can text me. I'd love it if they text me.
Okay, that's an unusual one.
Yeah. So my number, for real.
Throw out the number.
970-387-7811.
970-387-7811.
Yes, ma'am.
You heard it here, folks. Direct line to Bethany Turner.
Text me.
Your phone's going to go off today with, how do you feel about baptism? Really?
Bring it on. Bring me all your baptism questions. I
And then,
will I will refer you to scripture because I'm no baptism expert,
right.
despite what I may have made it sound like today.
And then your other text will be, and do you have Jamie Joe's number? Because I really need to talk to her about her opinions on all things criminal.
Like, send on your email to agent of Jamie Joe Wright
Right.
at jamiejoewright.com.
Right.com. And the answer you're going to get is really canned. I believe everyone is redeemable, but everyone is also a sinner. So there.
There
The
you
end.
go. What more is there to say?
All right. Well, I'm going to say it again. Brad and Sebastian hate each other. A love story out now. Grab it at any of the online book retailers that you want to shop. And we love, love, love indie stores, brick and mortar stores. So support those. And then if you get a chance, ask your library to pick one up too.
Yes, please. And
Because that's
thank
always
you.
a plus. So Bethany, thank you
Absolutely.
so much for putting up with me today and for being a
Likewise, my
guest
friend.
on Mad Lit Musings.
Thank you for having me.